You've probably assumed dying is something you're always legally allowed to do. In one small town on Earth, that assumption doesn't quite hold up. Welcome to Longyearbyen. It sits on the island of Svalbard, deep in the Arctic Circle, closer to the North Pole than to mainland Norway. Around 2,000 people live here, in one of the coldest inhabited places on the planet. And for decades, there's been an unusual, unofficial rule. You are not supposed to die here. Here's where the story gets strange. It's not that dying itself is a crime. No one gets arrested for having a heart attack. The real issue is what happens after. Because in Longyearbyen, you are not allowed to be buried. To understand why, you need to understand the ground itself. Longyearbyen sits on permafrost, soil that stays frozen year-round, sometimes hundreds of meters deep. And frozen ground does something unusual to a body. It doesn't let it decompose. Not in years, not in decades. In some cases, not for over a century. This became impossible to ignore in 1998 when a team of scientists exhumed several graves from Longyearbyen's small cemetery. They were searching for genetic traces of the 1918 influenza pandemic, sometimes called the Spanish flu, which killed an estimated 50 million people worldwide. Several miners in Longyearbyen had died from it, and researchers hoped their frozen remains might still carry live traces of the virus. What they found confirmed something unsettling. The bodies had barely decomposed at all. Preserved almost perfectly by the permafrost, they looked, in some cases, disturbingly intact, even after nearly 80 years underground. The historian and public health researcher Kirsty Duncan led part of this research, and her findings didn't just matter for flu history. They raised a much bigger question. If a body could stay this well preserved for 80 years, what else might be preserved along with it? Bacteria, viruses, pathogens that modern immune systems have never had to fight, because they've been sealed away in ice since before penicillin existed. So Longyearbyen made a decision: no new burials. If someone falls seriously ill or is nearing the end of their life, they are typically flown off the island to mainland Norway. The permafrost simply won't allow the town to safely bury its dead. So in practice, the town avoids letting people die there at all whenever it can help it. There's a deeper layer to this too. Global warming is making it worse, not better. As Arctic permafrost has begun thawing in recent years, scientists have grown increasingly concerned about what else might thaw along with it. Ancient anthrax spores, frozen in Siberian permafrost for decades, have already resurfaced and caused real outbreaks after unusually warm summers. Longyearbyen's frozen cemetery is a small, local version of a much larger global question. Here's the twist that makes this even stranger. Svalbard is also home to the Global Seed Vault, an underground facility built specifically because of that same permafrost. It's designed to preserve millions of crop seeds from around the world, protected from war, disaster, and climate change, precisely because the frozen ground here is so good at preserving things without decay. The same frozen soil that makes death dangerous also makes this island one of humanity's most important insurance policies for the future of food. Which brings you to something worth thinking about. You probably think of frozen ground as inert, dead, simply cold dirt beneath your feet. But permafrost doesn't erase what's buried in it. It preserves it, viruses, bacteria, and history alike, holding everything exactly as it was the moment it froze. Longyearbyen didn't ban death out of superstition. It banned burial because the ground itself refuses to let the past stay buried. And as that ground slowly begins to thaw, nobody is entirely sure what else it's been quietly keeping alive.